It's Rog, Monday night, and they say Wednesday night before Thanksgiving is meant to be the drunkest night of the year. God bless you, Concacaf. Moving that one up to the Monday before Thanksgiving, aka the Nations League quarterfinals, because what have we just witnessed? Well, the rest of the world may have been watching, yes, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, aka the Battle of the Kelsey Brothers. We highly evolved few were just revelling in soccer Kelseys, and by that I mean the Aronsons. March on with our US men's national team gents into Trinidad and Tobago without fear. Into that bear pit, that scene of former traumas past. Did we scare ourselves before kickoff? Did we, hell? But let's be honest, we barely emerged from the wreckage of a 90 minutes with the win on aggregate, but not a lot of our dignity still intact amidst the drum and bass of TNT. By the way, one lesson from tonight, football needs more cowbell. And our US boys rounded out 2023 by imploding 2-1 to 99th in the world, Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, we won 4-2 on aggregate. Let history remember that. But my lord, talk about the echoes of traumas past. GFOP at Space Zaddy tweeted, "It was the best of times. It was the worst of times." And we'll break it all down together here tonight. Not just me alone. We will do it together, for we are here on YouTube for a Do It Live presented by Cash App. Oh, download Cash App from the App Store or Google Play Store today to start saving today. I love any app that's named after Matty Cash. And this one, oh, that's money. That's Cash App. Come and be with us. Ask your question live on the pod. Here's how it works. You can come chop it up with me live right now here on YouTube. Ask your questions. Give us your sizzling hot takes if you have any. After that, all you got to do is scan the QR code in the top left of your YouTube screen, which will take you into a Zoom with our producer Jake. He's a beautiful human being. I adore him, and he can tell you everything you need to know. Do not worry. You will not appear on screen. It's audio only for the questions portion of the evening. So just, you don't even have to put a top on. Just act like a Newcastle fan. Come join me on stage. Scan the QR code. Follow the instructions. Come be with me. And if you don't want to out yourself as a Concacaf diehard, but still want your thoughts out there, type them in the chat, which I'll be reading throughout the show. And if you're just creeping, just smash the like button. Go on. I'm going to do it myself right this second. By the end of the show, we want the number of likes to look like France's scoreboard against Gibraltar. But I want to start with a positive. Thank you, Aaron. God bless you. My 2-year-old niece has more self-control than Dest, Aaron says in the chat. God, she's got to mature a little bit. I mean, God, I'd expect her to have more self-control at the age of 1, to be candid. But let's start with a toast to be positive, because Lord knows we need a burst of positivity after the 90 minutes we've just barely lived together, by raising my third first Bud Light of the day to the year 2023 AD. This was the last game of the year for our sweet US men's national team. A year which, let's be honest, began in trauma, turmoil, confusion. Kind of ended that way too, but it gave us the sweet, sweet cameo of BJ Callahan ball and the Nations League glory that came with it. We saw Flo Balogun choose to ride with us. No small thing. And as we look forward to 2024, tell me what you're looking forward to. I'd love to talk about that in the comments. What are we looking forward to? What are the positives? Might it be a year in which Burnley's Luka Koleosho sees the light and joins our squad, in which our gents continue to surge at club level across Europe? And that we summon a cohesive idea of the football that we do want to play during a deep Copa America run next summer. Dream about that this Thanksgiving. To that and more and better days ahead. Oh, I'm going to have a sip of this. Courage to tonight's game, in which our American boys needed just a draw or a defeat by fewer than 3 goals. Oh, God, when we first wrote that, we didn't think, wow, we would actually be sphincter crapping. Turtlehead, I think they call it in Liverpool. on the road. That's what we needed to advance to the March Final Four in Arlington, Texas. We knew we had no Lord and Saviour Christian Pulisic. Tim Weah out with hamstring knack. Tyler Adams, a long-term miss. And I mean that word, what a miss. His leadership has proven to be never more than this window. Weston McKennie joined them after re-aggravating a knee injury. I'm sure Juventus are thrilled. One of many footballers, it should be said, has gotten injured in this international window. There's really an epidemic of it as football is becoming ever more demanding on these poor footballers' bodies. Godspeed, Gavi. But the big question going into tonight was, would Triple G start up top Flo Balogun, our splashy new striker, who's cut a frustrated figure in the US system, or Ricardo Pepi, that giant Texan mighty mouse who 5 times this year, a national record, has come off the bench and delivered a goal for Greg. Oh, the manager who rode those goals into the 2022 World Cup but did not take the gent on his squad. And surprise, surprise, rosters came out and Greg picked them both. Going a version of 4-4-2, was it 4-4-2-2? I don't know, but as GFOP at old29417 said, 4-4-2 away from home in this economy, which I just loved. And I loved it. I bet you did. Cast your mind back before playoff and, God, just think about the big guns we were dropping and how we felt about that ahead of this game. It felt surging. It felt confident. It felt joyous. We were going to see what Ballo could do in space. Could he hurt an opponent? Really, tell me in the chat, what did you think we would see in this game when you saw that team sheet? Because we wanted this team, didn't we? We wanted that team to drop the hammer. We wanted just a confident, clinical, ruthless performance tonight, right? Isn't that what we expected? You know, this was our first game, yes, back in Trinidad and Tobago after the darkest hour, of which we didn't want to speak. Trademark Bruce Arena's darkest hour, 2017 in Couva. William Roberts loved the starting lineup tonight. Could have been a different result without that moment of... Oh, we'll get to that. But this was poor Spain. We're playing somewhere different. We're playing the Hazley Crawford Stadium. We took the field in a sweat. Game kicked off to steel drum accompaniment. Some cowbell in there too, which gave the game a surreal added rattle, which made me long for the relative calm of just a vuvuzela. It was addling watching this game. It had a mania, just a frenzy. Scorsese, if you watch Killers of the Flower Moon, just that soundtrack going on for 3.5 hours underneath, that bass just pounding away. It's what this game felt like. It had its own bloody soundtrack, and that soundtrack told you it was just on edge. There was just a chaos. There was just a frenzy in the air. Honestly, the first 15 minutes, I was like, okay. So this is the worst version of Stomp I've ever been to. Not that I've ever been to a good version of Stomp. I want to make that clear, but this version of Stomp excruciated the other 2 times I've had to sit through that bollocks. Every time the drums stopped, did twice, I think, in the first half, you could just picture the TNT producers had just walked out to those drummers, slipped them like $25, told them to keep it down, lads. Lasted maybe for about 3 minutes, but then they were back. And to begin with, it felt like the drums were propelling the United States forward in herky-jerky motion. Balogun drove a fantastic ball inside 2 minutes to feed Brendan Aronson, who slipped into the box, span round like a pirouette. It was like dead or alive. Spin me right round, baby, right round like an Aronson. Wrapped a low shot at the keeper, who parried. Brendan's first start after 5 substitute appearances. And I want to say, I love that vote of confidence from Greg. I thought this was great. You know, ultimately, Brendan had a tough game, a very tough game, but he's a young kid. We will need him in the next 10 years. Make no mistake. And Brendan, when you're talking about 2023s, which I think is the theme of tonight, right? He struggled at Leeds, then this season in Union Berlin, and to get handed the start, that vote of belief and trust after coming on as a substitute and bringing the fizz in the first leg. I did like that. I like that a lot. James Boris in the chat says, needed Deutsch there for that game. It doesn't matter what game we're talking about, James Boris. You just need Deutsch there. It doesn't even matter if it's not football. Life needs more Sean Deutsch. Yes, I did think about that tonight. Just come. We didn't have to score tonight. They had to score. Let them onto us. Counterpunch. Set up like that. But we didn't. We came to overwhelm. And again, within, was it 2 minutes? Balogun an extra rep a shot at Denzel Smith in goal. It was in 3 minutes max. Inside 3 minutes. We already had 2 shots on goal. 2 more than we'd had in the entirety of the first 55 minutes in Austin. And it felt good at the outset. Again, I said last game in Austin that the United States were very like Manchester United with that sterile possession, 76% possession, very little done with it until the 82nd minute. Again, if you watch a lot of Manchester United early in the season, this was very Mancunian. The early start that raises hope before shattering it. And Herc had talked in his pre-match analysis on our YouTube, talked about how TNT would have to play in this game with some kind of ambition. We knew that. And his insight was, let them come on to us, let them attempt to get a foothold, and then just use that space they leave behind and do them in key minutes. Play smart. This US team this year, in this last phase since BJ Callahan, they have not played smart, because early on, when we talked about some space that TNT may leave in behind, there was absolutely acres of space at time in behind for the United States. You will watch that game again. There was a moment when Carl Martinez said, "What a great ball by the United States." You've got to say, find that moment. Like Trinidad and Tobago had pushed everybody up over the halfway line. This you could have just pounded it. Anybody could have pounded it into space in that moment. There was acres that was begging for us. And it felt like we could rampage in on goal. But there was a helter-skelter, the drums. 1 minute, we were going in, Balogun rampaging in. The next, Nathaniel James was running in on Matt Turner with only Tim Ream's meaty St. Louis foot repressing the shot on its way to goal. And God bless, in my game notes in that moment, first half, a lot of people were like, why tonight is Greg Berhalter playing 36-year-old Tim Ream? Why is he playing? Why is he not seeing, there's nothing to play for? Go Cameron Carter-Vickers and Chris Richards. Let's see how those boys play together. And here's the reality. Tim Ream, possibly the most important player on this US squad right now. Not the most glamorous, but man is an institution. And when you ask why is Greg persevering with him when the tie was essentially over, why is he not trying out new combos? The reality is, and this is what my game notes showed after 15 minutes, Tim Ream is the only leader on this United States squad right now. The only voice on the field. This squad is so callow. Tim Ream is the beginning and the ending of outfield players who lead. And how much we saw that in the minutes to come. That is the ethos of this team, or the absence of ethos. Leadership, smart decision-making. It begins and ends with Timmy Ream, and the drums at this point were pounding away, just a Concacaf rhythm. I think musicologists, you'll tell me that's what it's called. Have you ever wondered what a Santana at Woodstock drum solo crossed with soccer would feel like? This was it. It was a madness, a psychedelic madness, the US sweating, but then the breakthrough, and it felt so sweet, even though it turned out to be complete misdirection on the night. 26th minute, Sergino Dest, remember the name, firing in a cross, 4 United States players in the box. When you look at this goal again, dizzying number of human beings in that box if you judge it by the Berhalter first cycle. We were getting gents into aggressive spaces. The Trinidad centre-back chose a terrible time to slip over, and Anthony Robinson seized his chance, finding himself suddenly with a crevice of space ahead of his defender, right in front of goal, and he headed home like the great Scouse American that he is. Back-to-back games with goals for Anthony. And it was in this moment that we realised, I thought, are we now playing total football? Is Triple G the modern incarnation of Johan Cruyff and filling a style of play which any player from any position could crop up and hurt opponents anywhere on the field when they least expect it? And God bless you, Anthony Robinson, you total weapon. Dude, You can never unblonde now. At Travis Chakamar on X. No, it's Twitter, baby. Feels so bad. Even Jedi won't do a backflip. God, that is peak Concacaf. And it all felt so bloody good in that moment until it went a little bit bloody bad. Carl Martino, actually in the midst of a speech about how professional the boys were being, when Sergino Dest, how do you say it? Did he just Sergino Dested? Is that what he did? Let's call this the Cash App That's Money moment of the match. God bless you, Cash App, you incredible thing. You're not Cockney rhyming slang for Warren Sapp. This is the moment. 38th minute. Sergino Dest struggled to keep the ball in play. Still hot under the old Nike collar after not being given a call earlier. The ball judged to have gone out of play, so he'd miscontrolled it, which just, turned Sergino Dest into, I don't know how you say in Dutch, Hulk smash mode. Is it Hulk? Is that what they say? Hulk smash mode. Dutch speakers, please call in. And suddenly, I guess he became very, very Dutch American. The two sides of his personalities. He took the worst of both identities. Just 100% hothead. The Dutch, they do have this stubborn streak where they cannot be stopped. The American thing, just the very, very cocksure. I don't know what we saw. He picked up the ball first, then booted it away when the ref signaled for a throw-in. Cue meltdown. Was it the heat? Was it the drums? Was it that Sergino Dest is just crazy like a fox? Because he just lost his mind in the face of the referee, Walter Lopez of Guatemala. Did the old hand over his mouth, shouting in the ref's face. We could still see what he was saying somehow. He couldn't even do the hand over the mouth thing properly. And he wanted no part of Tim Ream's veteran wisdom as Timmy tried to cool him down. Acted like someone had just told him, no, you can't post the post-match highlights on your personal social media. That's how angry he was. And suddenly, Sergino Dest went full on Draymond Green. Lost his marbles, blew a kiss at the referee, swore, acted really like a petulant, privileged high school kid. That's the only place I've seen it before on a football field. Just a mediocre, privileged high school kid. Got a second yellow, deserved a second yellow. At Kyle Corner tweeted at us, Dest hit him with the old, per my last email, and got hit with a second yellow. A dumber second yellow, red card you will not see. Couldn't the man have just been a goldfish? Surrounded by his teammates, screaming at him in disbelief. Dude will now miss the semi-final. Suspended. From the Sporting News, Kyle Bonn on Twitter just in, quote, Greg Berhalter opened up his media availability by calling Sergino Dest's red card, quote, regrettable, while recognising the hard work rate of the US side for gutting out the objective despite the defeat. You tell me what you think of that. That's a truth for what we just watched. What's your truth? Come on stage and tell me. Berhalter called Dest red's card, quote, concerning, because it's not what you want as a group. We pride ourselves on our conduct as a group. By the way, that's true. Greg has tried to create an ethos, the brotherhood that they all talk about in this, and this will have violated that. Says Dest apologised to the group, needs to be held accountable because it's, quote, inexcusable. Both of those quotes from the Sporting News. We asked you via a poll in the YouTube chat, when will Sergino Dest return to the US men's national team? Here's what you said. Next international break, 22% for Copa America, 42% after Copa America. Whoa, there's some ruthless human beings. I wonder what the parallel of people who think Dest should be held out of this US team till after the Copa America, 36%. And the overlap with that, who think 10 points off deduction for Everton is actually a very kind and generous punishment. Antonio Perez in the YouTube chat says they're setting himself up for a career in the NFL as a punter. Can you imagine a special team that consists of Sergino Dest, punter, and one Harold Kane as the kicker? I would watch that. Chicago Bears make it happen. But suddenly, We were down to 10 men. Gio Reyna, our creative brain, having to be sacrificed, subbed. Joe Scally coming in to cover at the back. The mighty at Franklin Leonard tweeted, "Congratulations to Gio Reyna, officially no longer the US men's national team problem child." By the way, this is not what Dua Lipa meant when she promised us that one kiss is all it takes, Sergino. And to be serious for a moment, it is not great if Sergino Dest is doing that when 4-0 up on Trinidad and Tobago, 99th in the world. Imagine what Uruguay will do when they're 2-0 up against us in the Copa America. In fact, I bet you that is if Uruguay were to play us in the Copa America, I bet you that's the only piece of game film they will show to their team before playing the United States. They don't care about tactics. They just like to see vulnerable hotheads wind that one up as they play. Dest just booting that ball into the hot, thick Trinidad and Tobago air over and over and over on a loop. Incredible stat from my friend Paul Carr, who tweeted, Sergino Dest is the first US men's national team player with an assist and a red card in the same game since ... Sergino Dest against Mexico in the Nations League semis earlier this year. At least that one was a bit of a dog in him kind of red card. This was just self-immolation, and it would get worse for the US men's national team. 4 minutes later, Rion Moore slipped in behind one-on-one with Cameron Carter-Vickers, whom it should be said he bodied to find separation. This is Rion Moore, who you might know him from his work as striker for Defence Force in the Trinidadian League. And he thrashed the ball through Matt Turner, who lost his footing in the key crucial moment. And suddenly, bad vibe Bruce Arena memories of 2007, right? We never learn. Do not F around when you're playing against two teams at the same time, America, because you will find out. You will find out for sure. And worse, suddenly we were stuck with that enormous playing with 10 red card graphic for more than half of football. Kind of covers about a third of the screen. Whole tenor of this game changed. We wanted dominant football before kickoff. We wanted a signature performance, one that would convince us that Greg Berhalter 2.0 truly can, in his words, when he re-signed with the United States, quote, change soccer in America. Instead, what's changed? Alvin Jones, he ain't changed. He of TNT Premier League Football Club, Club Sando. Sounds like the club next door from Club Tropicana that you go to when you can't get into Club Tropicana. Okay, we're going to slum it. Let's go to Club Sando instead. Anyway, Alvin Jones plays for Club Sando, where drinks are free. Fun and sunshine, there's enough for everyone. And the gent who scored the winner, that's how you know Alvin Jones. Where do you know him from? Not from Club Sando. You know him from your nightmares. Your 2017 Sunil Gulati on his sidelines, biting his knuckles, knowing that it's the end. It's the end for him. It's the end for Bruce Arena as a serious coach. Alvin Jones is a man who stepped up in Couva. Essentially, Alvin Jones, think of him to the US men's national team, what Divock Origi is to Everton fans. And Alvin Jones stepped up in Couva that night, 2007, blasted the ball past Tim Howard from like 87 yards to bury Bruce Arena as a serious coach. And again, is it 5 years later, Alvin Jones, just for lols, charged towards a free kick from miles downtown. I think it was a toe bunger. God, I used to love toe bunging the ball as a kid. I think Alvin Jones may have toe bunged it because he put a little knuckle of a dip in, which actually brought the ball over the wall, but brought it back down towards a diving Matt Turner. Got it, lads. And we've got it. All we can say is Matt Turner, great friend of this show. His confidence, no doubt, dented, having lost his place at Nottingham Forest. This will not help at all. The ball span off his wrists, agonisingly upwards into the net, a shot that should be saved. And suddenly we are 2-1 down. Again, in Trinidad and Tobago. This is Concacaf. Landon Summers in the chat wants to know, can we get Alvin Jones a US citizenship? You mean a one-time change? Alvin Jones, come speak to me. I've got a lawyer. We can pull it all off. Who needs any young talent? We can get Alvin Jones over and win it all 2-1. By the way, the commentator suddenly shouted, Trinidad need 3 more goals to win this. And the very second he shouted that, Natty Jones ran half the field on a one-on-one, slapped the ball just wide. The US at this point were bedraggled and holding on. This was the Destocalypse. That's what we were watching. And I am someone that loves this team. I love the growth of the game in this nation. I love it so much. I ache for performances that will build buzz amongst sports fans in America, the wider audience that they'll see. They'll see the clips, the highlights on, whatever, on the McAfee show or Stephen A. Smith, will be like, okay, that's interesting. I will keep chat. I'm interested. You got my attention. I want the buzz to build around this team in a run up to 2026. Outside of our soccer bubble, all I can say is this ain't it. This was macabre to watch. Just in terms of the self-sabotage. I was left. I'm quite a positive bloke when I'm not watching Everton Football Club. And I was scrambling for positives. I'm like, who has had, tell me in the chat, who has had their stock risen by these games, this 180 minutes? You tell me. Gio Reyna, I think, has shown him that he is in despair. All this chat at the beginning of the year, just bin him. We need Gio Reyna. We need a fit, confident, validated Gio Reyna. You can make the case Ricardo Pepi. And there's still obviously striking issues to be worked out. Tim Ream, just by definition of being the last sane human being left in our nation who can play football. And the other answer is Jesus Ferreira. And I want to speak to you, Jesus, through this YouTube. Jesus, we take it all back. We will never laugh at your pirating again. We will never diminish your pirating. We need your pirating. The only lesson we learned from these 2 games, you can make the case, was just how bloody hard it is to pirate at the Caribbean. We had no idea how much we were feasting through your mad skills until these odd, impotent, back-to-back performances of relative famine. Forgive us. 2-1. We scraped through against, it has to be noted, a very hungry, but immensely poor, from a footballing perspective, Trinidad and Tobago side. So how do you explain? Brian Burney says Jedi, his stock has gone up, and bloody hell, you are so incredibly right. God bless Jedi Robinson. Oh, you can't unblonde though, right? Deal. Just how do you explain a night like tonight? How do you guys explain it to yourself? Come on the stage, talk to me about it. Did it feel to the players like job done in Austin on Thursday night? And so we entered, a difficult place in terms of the playing surface, just the whole environment. I'm sure the locker room was not Premier League. So it was Concacaf. You talk to the players, they say it's Concacaf. This was Concacaf, but it felt more than just Concacaf tonight. Was it a woeful lack of focus? Was it an unmotivated feeling going in to this, that they'd already locked it down? I don't know. I just keep thinking about something Herc said on the preview pod that we taped today. Tonight was not about tonight. Every performance is about the big picture, 2026, or in Herc's words, we're trying to have a World Cup baby here, and we need possession. We need an ability to attack clinically, ruthlessly. Tonight we had none of the above, and it was just like the dampest of damp squib ways, spending the last 20 minutes of a football match desperately time wasting against 99th ranked Trinidad and Tobago so that we could survive and advance. Survive and advance we do. Akinyemi, Cindy in the chat says, disappointed Pepe didn't get to show us what he can do when he gets a start. Yeah, I mean, he had his touches. I'd say he was effective, economical in possession. But I mean, how many times did you hear the word Pepe called in the match broadcast? I feel for him. There will be much better days ahead, and Godspeed. Save it every second with PSV. Ricardo Pepi, because that is one of the American stories of the season. What lies ahead now is the Copa America this summer. We've got a poll. What is your Copa America expectation? Tell us what you're thinking now. Today it was announced that Atlanta will host the opening game. I cannot wait for that moment. I hope to be there. Miami, the city that Lionel Messi built, will host the final. Everything that comes in between those two games is what we now must focus on. God, the Miami final, I've got a feeling it's going to be played in Ray Hudson's backyard. It would if Concacaf were organising it. But the Copa is all that's important in terms of this US men's national team right now. The opportunity to have a deep run against serious opposition and almost at this stage prove themselves to themselves. So I'll just say, buckle up. Okay, listeners, to your questions. Here's how things work here on YouTube Live. You just have to scan that QR code in the top left of your screen or click the pinned comment in the chat. Take you into a Zoom with our producer Jake, a beautiful human being. He can tell you everything you need to know. Do not be afraid. You won't appear on screen. For those who don't want to ask a question, at least smash the like button. And let's start with, I sound like Pink. Let's get this party started. Possibly the worst party. Rog live on YouTube. It's Carl. Carl, tell us where you are. What's your question and how you're feeling after that night?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Carl, I can hear you a little bit. You sound like you're in the spirit world.
Alrighty. Let's see what I can do about that. But
yeah, we hear you loud and clear. Where are you, Carl?
Perfect. I am calling from Reston, Virginia.
Oh, I know it well. Respect to the DMV.
Most notable for just being the place you fly in and out of.
No. It's like Andy Sullivan territory. It is
Andy Sullivan territory, and not too far from Ali Krieger either.
South Lakes High School, stand up.
Yeah, my dad went to Langley, so not too far at all. Though I personally hail from Seattle, so I'm a big Sounders guy. God
bless. Fight and win, although I didn't say that properly. Alice Krieger is Prince William County, if I'm being technical. So I don't want to be coming with that Fairfax noise and mix the streams there. But tell us, Carlo, what are you feeling? What's your question, you beautiful human being?
So I've got two questions, one quick one and one that's going to be a little bit more. The quick question is kind of in response to that YouTube poll that you guys had. When does Dest come back? To me, when that happened, I immediately thought, who cares that he's got a suspension for the semifinal? He should not be on the roster. And to me, it's sometime afterwards, after the March window, when maybe Greg can pull his 3G peacekeeper magic that he's pulled off with Gio. But when does Dest come back for this team?
Wow, that is pretty bloody fascinating. Because Dest got a lot of leverage. Dest going forward. Good Dest is great Dest on this football team. Dest has some real vulnerabilities. You look at Dest's trajectory. Ajax, Barcelona, stock really dented, and then to Milan. Just stock obliterated. Barcelona then just making it completely clear, utterly surplus to requirement, ending up back in the Eredivisie. Eredivisie is not a place you go back to that young. Eredivisie is a springboard that you leap off to wonder. So he's in it. There's no doubt he is skill soaked. There is no doubt he is skilled. Ultimately, it does feel like mentally, that mental dimension, that professionalism, that focus, that ability Xavi was pretty damning, pretty crushing in his analysis, his public analysis. And so he club-wise, there is so much to prove. And the national team, even in that descent, has been for him like it has been for so many of these players. And they talk about it joyously. And again, I'll give huge credit to Greg Berhalter here. Chris Richards has talked about it. I'm not getting playing time with my club. This is my happy place where I, revel. Matt Turner, when he was at Arsenal, this was his place where Christian Pulisic in his darkest days at Chelsea, the United States team was where he thrived. However, team cultures are incredibly fragile. Greg has worked really hard to create, let's just use the word the players use often, almost like a talking point. It's a brotherhood. It's a thin line between a togetherness and then that becoming infected with, with selfish decision making. The lunatics have taken over the asylum. Player power, and Greg got his job back because of player power. The key players who felt great with Greg when at times they didn't feel great with their own clubs, like Pulisic saying Greg's a good manager. We were doing great with him. Ultimately, that's player power. The players played a great role in getting Greg his job back. And once you've done that, then you have to lean towards the players. You can only be a player-first coach. So the honest truth is, I think the players have a lot of leverage. And Greg's got a difficult tightrope to walk because, he can't praise Sergino here. He can't, coddle him. He can't explain him away. For the good of the rest of the players, he has to use Dest as an example and say, there's a line, and this tonight, this fairly irrational, selfish petulance, this is not part of our team culture. However, because there aren't many replacements for Dest, because of the player power feature, I would bet that Dest his absence will be a speed bump. Paul Tenorio has just reported that Berhalter has actually said, here it is, it's the first time I'm reading this. He said, talking about Dest, he's a fantastic part of this team. He's going to learn. He's going to grow. He made a dumb mistake. He knows that. He apologized to the team and we move forward. So I've got to say, based on that, our guess is pretty soon. Next up, it's Reese Healy. Reese, tell us where you are and what's your question.
Calling from Alexi Lawless's hometown here in Michigan.
Which hometown is it, or is it now just called Lallassonia?
It's just called Lawlesstown. We renamed the whole city. It's over here in Birmingham, Michigan.
How large is the statue of Lallas? Can you describe
Bigger
it?
than anyone else's.
Is he on a horse? Is it raised up with two legs and he's on it in like a Napoleonic hat, or is it?
Yep, in the denim jersey with the beard and the big hair. We love the old school Lawless. Maybe not as much as the new school Lawless.
Oh, I've just been told by producer J-Dubs. God, that there will be. By the way, if this country goes a certain way in the next election, there will be a new statue of Lallas raised with the modern Lallas up there in a slightly more kind of like autocratic fashion. We were apparently there in Birmingham. I know exactly where you are. It's right outside of Detroit, right?
Yes, sir. Go Lions.
We stayed there. Oh, go Lions. Bloody hell. Why have you got to bring that up? Reese, we're having such a nice time. But we stayed there in Birmingham. I didn't realize that was where, that's from a nice neighborhood.
That's way too nice.
Yeah, we stayed there with Crystal Palace when we went to film with Roy Hodgson and Chris Richards. We stayed in a hotel, the weirdest hotel ever. It was a bit like... It was like, even in the afternoon, it was like a club at 3 p.m. I can't remember what the hotel was called.
Probably Townsend, but that's okay.
It was one of your neighborhood is one of those neighborhoods where the hotels think it's cool to have giant chess pieces just scattered casually all around the bar. And I didn't feel myself there, but it's a beautiful neighborhood. God, I didn't realize that is Lallassonia. Reese.
Yes, sir.
I can picture exactly where you're from now. Tell us what your question is.
Well, Carl snagged my question, but my comment is, does Triple G come out as the big winner from this? He gave us the exact lineup we wanted. He made quick changes with Reyna coming out and Scully going in before halftime, which he really didn't need to do. We would have been happy with him doing a halftime sub. So would we all agree that this is Triple G's best coaching, despite everything that happened with Turner and Dest? I think Triple G is the big winner of tonight. Would you agree?
Oh my God, this is amazing. This is classic Carl, by the way. God bless, snagging other people's questions. This is amazing. In terms of your analysis, what you're telling me is Greg Berhalter is mega brain, actually playing 4D chess. He ain't just eating the pieces, is what you're telling us. And this was all just, sometimes Mourinho in his darkest hours at Tottenham Hotspur would field a lineup with no strikers, just fling on deeply mediocre midfielders up top, and then load the bench with like 3 goalkeepers and a couple of 14-year-olds from the academy. He'd always do it right before the January transfer window. That was his way of humiliating Dan Levy and saying, we have no players. What am I working with here? You're telling me this was Berhalter Mourinhoing and essentially being like, guys, YouTubers who, demand a certain team, I'm going to give you that team. This ain't on me. Are you telling us that tonight's performance, Reese, was not on us? It wasn't on Greg. It was on us for demanding in our ill thought out Twitter comments. All those who've tweeted play 4-4-2 for God's sake. For those who've said play Pepe and Balogun in a 2. Those the LDLT lobby. Is this where you're going? Tonight he gave us everything we've asked for. This was actually. You're saying this was actually Greg's greatest hour when he took what we wanted. We wanted chocolate, and he just gave us chocolate, stuck it down our throat until we were sick, and laughed as we biliously vomited it back up in his general direction. Is that what you're saying, Reese Healing?
A little bit. I mean, we wanted an attack forward team right off the bat, and that's exactly what we did. He started with Aronson. God bless both those brothers. And if that game went differently, I think Paxton would have gotten a play today. If it was 3-0 at halftime, Paxton was coming in for the last 10 minutes, guaranteed. He was on the bench. And I think Greg did what we wanted. He put an attack forward-minded team out. And if it wasn't for Dest, that game would have gone, I think, a lot differently. And for someone who did not want Dest to get the second chance, I'm not mad at him. Or not Dest, but Triple G. I didn't want him to get the second run at it, but he got it, and I'm not mad about today's performance. I'm a lot madder at somebody else, but it is what it is.
We should be mad at ourselves. We are pointing the finger at Greg Berhalter. He's holding up a mirror at ourselves, fuming, and our own fume caused tonight. I think that's a fascinating piece of thinking. But the one problem is, Reese, to be that kind of an arch mastermind. And by the way, having LDLT on that pitch tonight in Port of Spain, that quality, that pitch was like my hair when I need a cut. It was just scraggly and really sad. It's like having a master oil painter from the Renaissance era and then just handing him a can of spray paint, asking him to tag the side of a building. I would say that to have that level of deep perfection, it works when you're Mourinho, Reece Healy, when you've won things, when you've delivered greatness. You can do the occasional off game to prove a point, prove the point game. But to prove your point, you actually have to have had just a number of massive moments in your locker for context for that to work. Tonight, I fear. I'd like to believe. Let me just say, Reece Healy, I'd like to believe you're right. I'm not sure I do. I really do. Right now, we're looking for, as Doc Plush reminds us in the comments, we're looking for culture. We're looking for a philosophy. We're looking for tactical mastery. We're looking for a sense of direction, a sense of cohesion. And tonight felt like the opposite. Again, your point is not a bad one. This is where Greg could probably go to bed tonight and just feel, hard done to. If Brendan Aronson had put that ball in inside 2 minutes. If Ballo, there was a chance that fell almost immediately inside 3 minutes. We have too many of these. It could have been a different game. As an Everton fan, when we lost our opening games 1-0, 1-0, 1-0 at home all the time to teams that, like, their first shot on goal, they scored. You can't live like that. Ultimately, a loss is a loss, and we're looking for cohesion. And right now we are struggling, I believe, because no one outside of this soccer bubble is listening to our screams, is getting caught up in this narrative, is starting to believe in this team, these players. That's what we need. We need to build a bandwagon, and we need our nation to be feeling and seeing and glimpsing and saying, you know what, I want to be on that bandwagon. Right now, too many people in America, this pains me. This has always been this way, but it felt like it was changing post 2014, the Tim Howard Belgian game. That was a moment. Landon's moment, 2010, was a moment. It felt like we were building moments, and more we could project a future where more and more, soccer curious, sports first Americans were going to fall in love with this team. And right now, let's be honest with ourselves, there's too many human beings in all of our lives, in your lives, who, are not even going to bat an eye about the tactics, the result, or they won't even hear about Dest's ridiculousness. And within the bubble, Dest probably is the only thing that's going to make Sports Center, in the Draymond Greeny crazy way. That's not what we need. They'll probably also throw up the Alvin Jones goal. And none of that's the opposite. It's the opposite of what we want and need right in this minute. A little more serious of an answer than I think you were asking. But Reece Healy, the best I can say is I hope that you are right. I love your idea, and thank you for bringing it to us. Finish us up. Oh, the great Tim Bayers. Bring us home, Daddy-o.
Raj, good to be on.
Where are you from, Timmy B, with your radio voice?
I am from Denver, Colorado. But I am
country.
Yes, and I'm a Crystal Palace fan, and I have to tell you, Raj,
yes,
that was as much of a typical Palace. I'm not even watching Crystal Palace until we're back from the international break, and that was full typical Palace, Raj. That was terrible.
Which part? The American performance or the Trinidad one, or both? Were Trinidad Palace on a good day, and tonight US were at Trinidad Palace on a bad day?
I mean, I think a little bit of both. But yeah. I think the question, I have a quick question for you, but I want to make a comment about Sergino Dest. The poll that you put up, Raj, about how long should he be out? When Weston McKennie broke COVID protocols, was he out 2 games? How many games was he? I mean, he had to come on and talk very contrite in his interview with you. And
I think he had to sit out 3 Chipotle commercials.
Right.
You're right, by the way, and bloody hell, we needed Weston McKennie. We were on the ropes. Yeah. That felt dark, but discipline was discipline. I mean, the difference is you don't get banned for breaking COVID protocol by Concacaf. Ultimately, there's a built-in ban that now comes into play for Sergino. And do you want Sergino for the final? Look, I mean, it's a fascinating moment for Greg. Just not calling Sergino up for the next window sends a massive signal. Actually retains control for Greg. F with me. However much I love you, however sweet a person you are, and Sergino Dest is a very, very sweet bloke. F with us. You're letting the rest of your team down. It's not so much the act. The act was bad, but it's the letting. That's the message many coaches would give. It's the letting of your other teammates down. That is unforgivable within my schema. Take a seat. We need you. We love you. We want you. But watch. Think about, ruminate on what you've done. We will ride again. That's a philosophy that could be pursued. I mean, Greg's words were very positive, very supportive. Sergino, which was for an unfathomable, I mean, just an embarrassing, unfathomable moment. We've all had them. I mean, let's be honest, we've all had them. Act like that in your workplace and you'll probably be looking for another job. But God, yeah, I mean, I don't know the answer. It's going to be fascinating to watch how he does it. By the way, how did you become a Crystal Palace fan, Tim Bayers, for Uncle Roy's Air Force?
Oh my gosh, I have a long-winded answer to that. I'll keep it simple and
Please.
say, I love the community, and it's a special club that gives me the things that I don't get in American sports, Raj. I mean, you have an owner who is a fan of the club. You have
Steve Parrish.
a catchment. Yeah, you have a catchment area that brings players up through the academy, and they end up playing for the club. It's a genuine community club that is rooted in that community, and that's rare in American sport, and I love every bit of that. So it's a little bit more about the community.
I've got to say, just very quickly, I agree with everything you've said. And any American that's traveling to London and can catch a game at Selhurst Park, It is magnificent. Just rawly authentic and joyous and passionate. And the whole area, they call it Concrete Catalonia. So much English talent coming out from those square miles around there. You have fallen in love with a wonderful club, and I admire your approach greatly. But tell us, Tim, what was your proper question?
So it's about Palace, and it's about, I mean, I really hurt for Chris Richards because it's tough for him to get a game with Mark Gay and Joachim Anderson starting in front of him. But we love him. We absolutely love him. And we've loved him since he chased down Anthony and put him right on his proper backside in the game against Manchester United last season. But I mean, here we go. He's got 2 games, and he's watching both Tim Ream, and I think you're right, Raj, that Ream is the alpha and the omega of the U.S. men's national team. But yeah, he doesn't get a start in front of Cameron Carter-Vickers, and I it's hard to say that Cameron Carter-Vickers was just fine. So what does he need to do, Raj? I would hate for us to lose him at Palace, but does he, in order to convince Greg to get him back on the pitch, does he need to make a loan move? Does he need to demand a transfer? What does he need to do?
Chris Richards is a phenomenal human being. That's what I'll tell you. I adore him. And he's just, Tim, just a wonderful wonder. I love being with Chris Richards. I love his story. I love his focus. I love watching him play football. I'm not going to say that I've may or may not have lobbied for his agent to move him to Everton, but I'm not going to say it either. But Chris Richards is a very fine footballer. He will find his place. I hope it's Crystal Palace. It might not be Crystal Palace. He's aching to play. He adores playing for this United States team. He's made that utterly clear. And we will see exactly what he does, whether it's a loan move in January. But I think ultimately he will realise, I mean, it's great to have options. Tim Ream is so critical to this team in that culture. Remember, we talked about the culture that Dest kind of violated tonight. But a locker room, an international locker room has a culture. Tim Ream there is no doubt to me, Tim Ream is the arbiter of that culture. We see him as a footballer. He's far more than a footballer for this US team. He is how the women players talk about Becky Sauerbrunn is probably the best example I can say. They say a lot of the young women who play for the United States women's national team say that when they're in camp and they're faced with a dilemma or a decision, or they have to do something or think about something independently through their own head, they'll say, what would Becky do? And if they don't know the answer, they'll ask Becky, and she will just give them some insight, some information. And ultimately, Tim Ream is that on the men's side. Megan Schenk in the chat says, Father Time Ream and Becky Sauerbrunn single-handedly raising the United States Federation children. I mean, it's funny, but it's true. It's also amazing that, God bless. Thank God at the MIB Media Network, we are so close to both of them. I can't wait. When I watch this game tonight, part of me was like, I cannot wait to watch Tim Ream, the American Dream podcast next week, to hear his, he'll have some time to think, but his take on what happened tonight, what he experienced, what he saw, what he thinks, will be illuminating. And that's what I love about Tim. He'll shoot straight in that podcast. He'll tell us straight. Same with Becky Sauerbrew when she comes on. And we're going to podcast together before the end of the year to do a year in review. Becky is going to come on the MIB network, so send us your questions for her. But that's kind of where we are. Chris, please God, will rise at Palace, because I know he loves the culture there, as you've identified, just that incredible, just the swagger of the youth, the youth development, the wonder. But if not there will be many, many takers. And it's great. Chris Richards, Tim Ream, Cameron Carter-Vickers, those are some centre-backs. And that is a position in which we are really well, versatile and joyously stocked. One thing about Dest, I do want to say this, and if we learn anything from the Gio situation, we've got to be careful about piling on. Yes, this was bad. Yes, this was immature. On one level, it felt like it really wasn't about the throw-in. John Oliver came on our show once. We showed him a clip of a West Ham fan. You may or may not remember. As a West Ham fan, a very angry old man going mad about the players not giving the shirt to his... they didn't give the shirt to my kid! They didn't give the shirt to my kid! This guy going mad. And we finished the clip. John Oliver just goes... I don't know who that man is, but something tells me it's not really about the shirt. And I think tonight it really wasn't for Sergino Dest about the throw-in, being across the line or not about line. It was just, we won't know. It won't come out. It was a deeply indefensible act within the realms of normal bounds on the football field. But we've got to remember, these are young human beings finding their way. And you also got to remember, who hasn't had an awful day in the workplace? And this was monumentally bad. I've had I don't know about you, I've had monumentally bad days in the workplace. Let's hear what he says after the fact. Let's see how he responds. Let's see how Greg handles it. Let's see the lessons learned, private and public. And Godspeed. May Sergino Dest learn from this moment. May all of the young talents on this team learn from this moment, and may we rise again. That's my hope anyway. But let's close. It's been I found this joyous tonight, even amidst the strange vibes that came out of that whole 90 minutes. To be with you is something I don't take for granted. I want to finish by raising a shot of Jägermeister, a bolt of human emotion in a shot glass, to all of you for Thanksgiving. This is actually my last podcast this week before I head back to the United Kingdom to be with my dad for the holiday. It's a time of chaos and challenge in the wider world. It's not a great time for my family. Your love means a ton to all of us. I'm so grateful to everyone for their wise words. And I want to say thank you to all of you who have fallen in love with the game we love, in the nation we adore, talking about it. Even if it's just fleeting, always makes my life, makes our life, I hope makes your life feel richer, more meaningful, more alive through these conversations. And they've just really, when I look at this year for the MIB Media Network, it's you at home, either watching this or listening, that have really propelled the growth. And I want to thank also, for a quick second, all of my colleagues at the MIB Media Network who work so hard, so passionately, so creative, and bring these match day moments together so that we can all commute. And in that regard, before we go, quick look at everything coming up on the Men in Blazers Media Network. All of it powered by Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Tomorrow, we have a really proud day, an incredibly special series launching This Week in Wrexham, brought to you by Stoke Cold Brew Coffee. I never sit here without some by my side, can I just say I'm so bloody excited for this. It's just a pod series with those inside that great club, the micro macro power that is Wrexham AFC, as well as a YouTube original series with Men in Blazer's first Wrexham correspondent, Thomas Wynne Lewis, aka Tommy Cheese. Can't wait for you to spend time with this gent, America. But this series is meant to help celebrate that incredible club, its singular storyline, frankly, the magic of British lower league football. The first podcast with Super Paul Mullin drops tomorrow on the main Men in Blazers pod feed. Give it a listen. Share it with everyone who loves Wrexham. Also dropping tomorrow, the trailer for the digital series with Tommy Cheese, which is a travelogue of life in and following Wrexham from ground to ground. It's been so bloody wonderful creating this series. We can't wait to share it with you week on week on week for the rest of this season. And that's it. Big love from me. Thank you to Cash App for supporting tonight. Really, I found this incredibly healing. Thank you to everyone at Cash App for just believing in us, giving this opportunity to be together, powering this conversation. This is the end of 2023 for the US men's national team. Let's look ahead with positivity, with joy, with hope in our hearts. 2024, let's learn our lessons. Let's develop, let's build, let's bring it on. This is Rod saying go USA. Big love to all of you and courage.